views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of BronxNet or the program underwriters.
With immigration reform one of the central issues of the 2016 presidential campaign, it still remains a hot topic nowadays. And now with anti-immigrant sentiments echoing across the country and many people wondering, oftentimes community members don't even realize they're being legally protected against discrimination, even as an immigrant. According to the New York City Commissioner on Human Rights, there's been a 60% increase in reports of discrimination and bias incidents in 2016. And coming up on this episode of Perspectives, our guest goes in depth, providing us some valuable information, helping you to understand your rights and learn about the resources available to you. That's up next on Perspectives with yours truly, Darren Hyman.
What's on your mind?
Let 'em know.
What's on your mind? What's on your mind?
Let 'em know.
Anything relevant to life, you bring it to the table. Whether you make a move solo or a movement with a stable. No fables, you speak on your decisions. Cause in the long run, it's your voice, your views, your vision. Keeping it real with many messages for you to know. This ain't radio, but DJ runs the show. Entertainment, he rocks it. Politics, he locks it. The host with the most would handle any topic. Don't forget to share your perspective which shines a light. Cause it might make a difference in someone else's life.
Make a difference.
What's your perspective?
Express what's in your heart and your mind. Share your perspective.
What's your perspective?
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Perspectives. I am Darren Hyman. Of course, we invite you to stay connected to us here on the show every week. You can catch us live here on BronxNet's Perspectives, and that's on channel 67. Of course, catch us on the World Wide Web at BronxNet.org. And then also social media. You can hit us up on Facebook, and also Twitter. My professional page on Facebook is Darren C. Hyman, and there you can find out about the latest that's happening on our show, and then you can also even share what you'd like to see. Coming up on this edition of Perspectives, we go front and center with the issue of human rights. Our guest is originally from Cameroon, but she currently works here in the Bronx and with the city's African diaspora communities. She's a human rights specialist at the New York City Commission on Human Rights in the Bronx office. And she's also at the forum that was answering questions dealing with the whole issue of human rights. We welcome now Ms. Christelle Anwu, and thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you very much for having me.
Glad to have you. Glad to have you. So when people talk about the Commission on Human Rights, first of all, give us a little bit about what the Commission does.
The New York City Commission on Human Rights is a city agency that basically protects every New Yorker against discrimination as well as harassment. The Commission on Human Rights is located in all the 5 boroughs. We have an office in the Bronx, Manhattan, Queens, Staten Island, as well as Brooklyn. But I am from the Bronx office. Mm-hmm. And so we basically fight against discrimination based on race, religion, ethnicity, and many other protected classes.
Mm-hmm. And when we talk about numbers, I gave it a little bit in the intro that according to you guys, there's been a 60% increase in numbers being reported. That particularly with discrimination and bias. Mm-hmm. Any reason why we're seeing this increase?
So there has been a huge increase in the number of discrimination complaints that we have received at the Commission, especially with the recent upticks in discrimination. And so most of the cases that we've received have had to do with discrimination based on national origin, race, as well as immigration status. Mm-hmm. And so the Commission has had a 60% increase in the number of incidents of discrimination. And at the Commission, we basically believe that the reason for the increase in the discrimination has to do with the fact that most New Yorkers are not aware of the human rights laws. Mm-hmm. And so having a forum to educate New Yorkers about their rights under the city human rights law is very important at the Commission.
And so making sure that people do have information to know about that is very important. But I want to go back for a second when you talk about the fact that there's a 60% increase. Mm-hmm. It does seem, though, that people feel more comfortable in wanting to make reports now when it comes to their rights being violated. Would you agree?
Yes. So people have been feeling very comfortable because, with our new commissioner, Commissioner Cameline Malalis, she's basically increased outreach into different communities, communities that have been underserved in the past. So, for example, by basically hiring more staff, who speak languages of different communities, has actually helped communities to be able to come to the commission to file discrimination complaints. So, doing more outreach in different underserved communities has to do with the increase in the complaints that we've received at the commission.
Do you feel like, let me come with another question in terms of, I was going to ask you about how do you feel about the fact that people are coming forward, because it's got to be a good feeling to know that people are saying, listen, I feel like my rights are violated, and I need somebody to know about that.
I mean, that is what, the city agency was basically created for. And so, we want people to feel comfortable to come to the commission to report an instance of discrimination, right? Regardless of immigration status. So that is a good thing that we have a lot of community members coming to us with complaints of discrimination.
So walk us through a little bit. After I come and say I feel like I've been discriminated against, I come, I make a report with you. Where does it go from there after I make the report with you?
So basically, normally when someone has a report of discrimination, we ask them to call 311, ask to speak to the Commissioner of Human Rights, or they can call our info line, and the phone number is 718-722-3131. And then if the cases that is being presented to the info line person on the line matches, falls under the discrimination based on our law, then they will be provided an appointment to meet with one of our attorneys. And so when they come in to the office, they will have to bring in, evidence that they have to support the discrimination claim, and then the investigation will go from there.
How long do investigations usually take? A long time?
I mean, like right now, we do have a huge amount of complaints, and so normally, we tell people that it might be 2 weeks, 2 weeks or less, basically. Yeah.
That's a fairly quick time. 2 weeks, 2 weeks or less to be able to deal with that. What I want to do is I want to take a quick break, because if I get into this, then what's going to happen is I won't get a chance to talk, and then we'll have to go to commercial. So I think we'll go to commercial now while we can, and then come back and talk about a forum that was recently held, educating people and letting people know exactly what their rights are. Now, if you want to know what your rights are, stay with us, because coming up after the break, we'll do a good job of getting you that information to know what your rights are, and then tell you about a forum that was held here to let people know just that.
And I can't change, even if I try, even if I wanted to. My love, she keeps me warm. 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 She keeps me warm.
We are neighbors and best friends.
I love my sister.
My heart doesn't see race. Love is love.
Our family is no less than any other family.
Love is kind. Love is patient.
Take a look under your bed. Find stuff under there? What about jobs? No? Now try your closet. Still no jobs, just more stuff? Well, you really have both. See, stuff is defined as household articles considered as a group. Sometimes this stuff is no longer needed. Wait, no longer needed? That can't be right. Because remember those jobs you were looking for? Those are really needed. And they're the stuff inside your stuff. Our job is to unlock those jobs. And it starts when you donate your stuff to your local Goodwill. Here's how we do it. When you donate to Goodwill, we sell your stuff to provide job training for people right here in your community. So just by teaming up with Goodwill, you help create jobs. And isn't that worth parting with the leftover keytar from your 80s cover band? Goodwill. Donate stuff, create jobs.
Hey, look, it's those guys.
Let's go, Pearly Whites, man.
Ooh, cute.
Are you good to try?
I'm fine.
How many did you have?
I should be fine.
You should be.
Sir, go and step out of the vehicle for me.
See ya, buddy. Today Sean's got a hearing. We'll see how it goes. Good luck. So turns out, buzz driving and drunk driving, they're the same thing. And it costs around $10,000. So not worth it.
Back here on Perspectives, Christelle Anwu, our guest here. She's a human rights specialist at the New York City Commission on Human Rights, and helping us understand that in a time such as this, where there seems to be a lot of bias, discrimination, and prejudice, the New York City Commission on Human Rights has been very active with boots on the ground, trying to help people to know and understand their rights. And Christelle, as we're talking before the break, we talked about the rise in the number of complaints, and many times those complaints are emanating out of minority communities and communities where there's refugees and immigrants. And I know the African community is a big community here in our borough. Talk to us about the African community and the work that you guys are doing to try to reach out there.
So it is true that the Bronx has the highest African population in the city of New York. And so, you know, when I started working at the commission, you know, my job, you know, was to basically do outreach to the different African communities. So we have, you know, people, you know, from Cameroon, Nigeria, Ghana, Senegal, you know. So I've been, you know, like meeting with different associations, and also, you know, providing presentations, as well as, you know, presentations on the human rights law, and so presentations, you know, to basically educate Africans about, you know, their rights under the human rights law. So I've been doing, you know, presentations, you know, in French as well, you know, to the French-speaking African population. You know, so that has been my role since I joined the commission.
Right. And getting the African community to know a little bit more about their rights. Obviously, a lot are coming with questions. A lot have a lot of issues that have been going on and not really been too vocal. Give us a little bit about the African community and your work in terms of really getting in there and helping them to know, because do you find that most of them know what their rights are?
Okay. So, I mean, like, you know, like every other New Yorker, right, you know, the African population, you know, is not very different. And so, you know, most of them, you know, are not even aware, you know, that they can file a complaint, regardless of the immigration status. And so, you know, when I go into the community and I do presentations, you know, I always, you know, make sure I let them know, you know, that even, you know, even though, you know, you might be here without any documents, if you are a victim of discrimination, from a landlord, you know, you can still file a complaint, you know. If your landlord tells you, you know, I'm not going to rent you an apartment because, you know, you have no papers under the human rights law, you know, that would be considered discrimination. So, you know, I give them, you know, specific examples, you know, to basically educate them on how to file a complaint at the commission. So, yeah.
And so what's the response been like going into the African community here in the Bronx? Very receptive, or, you know, has there been a lot of hard work in terms of reaching the people?
I mean, like, you know, it is, you know, been a lot of hard work, you know, but it's good hard work, you know, and I've learned that, you know, that the African community, you know, has been very receptive, you know, of our outreach efforts, you know, and also very excited that, you know, a city agency, you know, is basically doing outreach to them, and so, you know, it's been a very exciting time for them, and so they've been, you know, pretty receptive of the commission.
So recently there's a forum that was held, and give our viewers a little bit about what happened at the forum and what took place.
So basically, the forum took place at the Metropolitan College of New York on 149 Grand Concourse, and so the idea behind the forum, stemmed from meeting with different African leaders, and so like basically what we try to do, is to create like topics, of concern, to the African community. So, for example, talking about, discrimination, as well as immigration, the African population, just like any other community, faces a lot of immigration issues, and so we thought that by basically inviting the New York City Immigrant Affairs, and basically partner with them, we will provide more resources to the community. And so we also had someone from the Department of Education to provide information regarding, pre-K for all, and also someone from the New York City Department of Finance to provide information on different services, for seniors. And we also reach out to the New York City Controller Office, to basically provide information regarding, minority-owned business, small businesses. And so those are all of the different issues that are of concern to the African community, and so it was very important for us, to partner with all these different city agencies, to basically bring them resources.
What are the big things that you're hearing out of the community that they're telling you?
I mean, immigration, right? Immigration, is an issue, that is not only very important to the African community, as well as to other communities, and also, discrimination, discrimination based on race, religion, especially, as well as, a national origin. So we've had, clients, come to the office, saying that, that landlords, as well as superintendent, were discriminating against them, by telling them, oh, I'm not going to give you an apartment, because you have too many children, or maybe, sometimes, landlords, just telling them, basically, why don't you go back, to where you come from, and so, those are some of the complaints that we've received from the community.
What do you want people to know? Because, there's some definite things that people should know about when their rights are being violated and what people can and cannot do.
So we want people to know that that the New York City Commissioner of Human Rights is basically there for them. If they or someone that they know are being discriminated against, they can come to our office. We have offices in all the 5 boroughs. We're located, at 1932 Otto Avenue, in the Bronx office, or they can just call 311 and ask to speak to the Commissioner of Human Rights, or basically call our info line, whose number is 718-722-3131, to speak, with one of our info line staff. So the commission, basically welcomes, every New Yorker, regardless of the immigration status, and has done a very good job, to reaching out to different communities. And so, when Commissioner Malalis started 2 years ago, Commission staff spoke about 6 languages. Now we have about, 29 different languages. So, we are trying to reach out, to diverse communities. So feel free to come to us, with any complaints, any questions.
Yeah. I want to let you know Crystal Onwu's our guest in the studio from New York City Commissioner on Human Rights. Stay with us. We're going to go into more when we return right here on Perspectives.
You know what, guys? There's a lot of tree branches and dry brush over here. We should probably move the bonfire over there.
I'm guessing Smokey liked that idea.
Being prepared is a part of who you are. But it's especially important in the case of a disaster. Be informed about possible emergencies in your area. Make a plan that covers where you'll go in an emergency. Build a kit with the things you need to survive. There's no one more capable of planning for your situation than you.
Start your plan today. Go to ready.gov/myplan.
I'm only 17, but I know about investing. Believe in something, buy shares in it, watch it grow. So, what if you could invest in the future? The future of kids, like a stock. Not the kind of stock that's about making money, but a stock for social change. A whole new kind of investment called Better Futures. When you invest, it helps kids go to college. I could be one of the first college graduates from my family, the first philanthropist from my neighborhood. And if I'm the first, then maybe there's a second and a third. Believe in us, invest in us, watch us grow. My name is Sydney, and I'm your dividend.
Me and my boy Matt had it good. He had catnip that was off the hook. But one day, he brings a girl home, and she's allergic to cats. Every sneeze was a nail in my coffin. Now I'm in a shelter. It's decent, but they don't even have Wi-Fi.
And when you talk about wage and discrimination, here's the statement. All New Yorkers deserve fairness and respect in the workplace. And when you're looking for or renting an apartment, if you're treated differently by an employer or a landlord because of what country you come from, your immigration status, religious beliefs, or accent, all you have to do is call 311 and say human rights. And if you call 311 and say human rights, you just might end up speaking to this lady, Christelle Anwu, who's here from the New York City Commission on Human Rights, and talking about landlord discrimination. That's a big problem we have here in our borough.
It is. And so, again, just like you mentioned at the commission, if you believe that you've been a victim of discrimination, or if your landlord tells you, I'm not going to take your Section 8 voucher, I'm not going to allow you to rent an apartment, with all your children, I'm not going to give you an apartment, because, of your national origin or your race, you are welcome to call the commission. And this can be, the landlord or any agent of the landlord. That includes the broker, the super. So anyone who basically works under the landlord can be held liable for discrimination.
And so, as you said, there's certain things that landlords cannot do.
Yes.
So what are some of those? So
landlord cannot refuse a voucher for an apartment. A landlord cannot tell you, I'm not going to rent an apartment because you have too many children. A landlord cannot tell you, I'm not going to rent an apartment because of your gender identity. I'm not going to rent an apartment because of your race or your national origin. So those are some of the protected classes that we have at the commission.
Yeah. And I take you're seeing a lot of cases.
Yes, we are.
Mm-hmm. And so for people who have situations where you feel like your rights are violated, you're encouraged to reach out to the New York City Commission on Human Rights. You can dial 311 as we showed you in the last graphic. All you do is you dial 311, you ask for human rights, and then you have the opportunity to also form a complaint. And from what I'm understanding from Christelle, she tells us on the show, it usually takes about 2 weeks for that complaint to be investigated. What are some of the consequences that happen for some of these people who've been found guilty of discrimination?
So basically, the commission can file up to $500,000, for a landlord, or an employer who discriminates against a New Yorker. Mm-hmm. So the fines are pretty hefty. Yeah.
And what kind of response do you get from landlords and people when you start going after them?
I mean, like any other, situation, no one, likes, to be, no one likes to have, a complaint filed against them, and so, we basically, try to, to also educate landlords and tell them, don't do it, because if you do it, then the commission is going to come after you, and so, most of the time, they're not very happy, but, we have to follow the law.
Yeah, and recently, let's say we were telling BronxNet, a forum was being held to really work with the African community here in our borough. Going forward, do you see more forums like that taking place?
Oh yes, definitely. Actually, the African Forum was a success. We had, over 100 Africans, who came in, and most of them, were very excited about the forum, and they basically asked, that we do it, more often to continue to educate the African community. So yes.
Yeah, and you want people to definitely take advantage of the resources that are out there. And so when you talk about bias and discrimination, once again, somebody who just might be watching, what are the different kinds that people can come to you and talk to you about at the Commission on Human Rights?
So like, in terms of bias, it can be, someone, just walking down the streets, and then, someone telling you, oh, you, Muslim, go back to your country, you, African person, go back to your country, so there are, different forms of bias incidents. So yeah.
So if people want more information, make sure that you get connected to the New York City Commission on Human Rights. We spent a lot of time here today letting people know. And as we said, right here in the borough of the Bronx, Christelle has done a very good job of trying to outreach to the African community. If you're in the African community, or if you're just in the community at all, and you feel as though your human rights are being violated, the first step is please go ahead and call 311. And then as you call 311, you can ask for human rights. And then if it's deemed appropriate, then you can go ahead and formalize your complaint. And as we said, it takes about 2 weeks for that complaint process to go forward. But as you heard here, landlords can pay a pretty hefty fine, and once somebody's caught on the other side of violating those rights. So Christelle Onwu, our guest in studio, sharing a little bit about New York City's Commission on Human Rights. I want to thank you for coming and sharing with us. And of course, when information needs to be brought out to the community, please come back.
No problem. Thank you so much for having me. I just wanted to basically remind everyone, that New York City, is a city, full of immigrants, and so it is very important, to also understand that, if you have, any issues of discrimination, you can always come to the commission, and just take it from there. So, yeah.
All right. Christelle, well, thank you so much for coming and sharing with us.
Thank you for having me.
All righty. Thank you, Christelle. I want to thank you for watching here. This is another edition of Perspectives. I'm Darren Jaime telling you, be encouraged. If you find that your rights are being violated, please go out and reach the New York City Commission on Human Rights. For all of us on the set of the show, thank you for watching. Until the next time we meet, stay safe. Share your perspective with somebody else. You never know. It just might make a difference in somebody else's life.
Don't forget to share your perspective, which shines a light, because it might make a difference in someone else's life. What's your perspective?
Express what's in your heart and your mind. Share your perspective.
What's your perspective? Let them know.
What's on your mind?
Let 'em know.
Express what's on your mind. What's on your mind?
Let 'em know. Anything relevant to life, you bring it to the table. Whether you make a move solo or a movement with a stable. No fables, you speak on your decisions. Cause in the long run, it's your voice, your views, your vision. Keeping it real with many messages for you.